let's talk about the main light, which is the key light. First of all, every set needs a key light, and the key light is the main light which lights up the subject or maybe the things which happened in your shot. But where to position it? Because it's not just to light up the scene, it's more than it, you need to create depth. But how to make it? Well, the key light is the most important light. And for shots like this, for let's say an interview or just a talking headshot, it's perfectly to put the key light 45 degrees from the camera. This will create the most natural shadows on the face of the character, because we are going to have one bright side and one dark side. But what if the subject is not looking into the camera for, let's say, a film? Well, here's one important thing. The camera should be positioned in such a way that it will film the dark side of the character. If you film the bright side of the character, this will make a flat image because you can't see the shadows, you will see just the bright part. By lighting up with a key light, there are multiple types of lighting. Well, you can have hard lighting or soft lighting, but both of these options require lights, and these lights can be sometimes really cheap, just some cheap soft boxes, or maybe they can get pretty expensive if you want to get a big soft box or maybe a really powerful light. Well, in this particular set I'm using a really powerful light from Godox together with a 120 centimeters softbox. But this setup can be quite expensive. So what if you don't have the budget of buying a key light, or maybe you are just wanting to create this set just for, let's say, more important video call? Well, you can use a window. When you are using a window, here is a small twist, because you can't really move the window. This means you need to move the camera and the subject to get asymmetric shots. But there is the same rule. If the character is looking directly into the camera, then you need to position the character and also the camera so that the window is positioned 45 degrees from the camera. Okay, now we have also the case if you have the budget, or maybe if you already have the light. But there are more things when it comes to lighting. Well, there is the diffusion. The diffusion is how soft the light is. It could be really soft, just like in this case, but for this you need a softbox, or maybe it could be hard light. Well, this all depends on the story. If you don't want to tell a visual story through your shot, then you normally should use soft. But how the light looks depends on the softbox, not always on the light. If you use cheap and really small softboxes, this will not create a, let's say, good enough light. Because the light is small, then you need to get your light pretty close, and by getting it so close, then you will create again hard shadows. If you have a bigger softbox, just like in this case, then it's a complete other story. Because it's so big, it can light up almost the entire room. And just in this particular case, the light is set only to 20% of power. The softness can also depend on how you want to create your shot. If you want to have a really bright set, then you can use a more softer light, a more powerful light. But if you want to create exactly like in this case a more darker set, then again a not so soft light is also good. But how to soften the light more, because it's not like a dial to turn on or turn off the softening. Well, these are called double diffusion, and not many lights have it. If you don't have it, well, there's also a easy fix. Just take the light farther away or closer to the subject. But if you have double diffusion, this can really change the way how a shot would look like. With a more soft light, it will also spill that light onto your background, and it will not have so prominent shadows. But with a not so soft light, you will have prominenter shadows, and only the subject will be really good lit up and the background not so well. But the summary of this entire thing with softness are just shadows. If you want more prominent shadows or if you want less shadows. This all depends on the story you want to tell, and also if your set would look like dark or maybe a brighter set. And when it comes to films, you have also a story, and when you have a story, you can also move the light in other places. If you want to have a really dark story, just in this particular shot, you can have a top light. And this light was hanging up at 4 meters, lighting up the lighting up just a spot with a not so big diffusion, and this creates these hard shadows. And these hard shadows can tell a story, because it's also a top light. It will be a more darker set, because it will not spill also on the ground or maybe also on the background. The most important thing when you're just starting out with lighting is to create a cinematic image. And just to start out, you don't need to think about the story, to tell a story by positioning the light in a certain way. You need to think about creating a cinematic shots. Even if you have, let's say, a dark story, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't respect this 45 degrees rule with the lighting. The background instead can be dark. Or maybe if you have a bright story, again the background could be bright. Not just the key light can tell a story. Also the background can.